for everybody. Okay, do they talk about the cost of living tax? The need for this, are they the only ones that need a cost of living adjustment? Are they educating the public that everybody should demand this? We need one big fat union to demand justice. The Labor Department ought not be utterly and profoundly remiss at giving cost of living adjustments every year. If they had, we wouldn't have these problems. Do they educate people the way I am? Jesus, help us. God, help us. They caught this Golden State serial killer. They termed this guy, this murderer, psycho, rapist, freak. And turns out he was a cop, too. Psycho. They got that guy in his 80s. Wow, that's good. Took him a while. I talk about decriminalization and being against the war on drugs. Yeah, I am for that. I believe the answer is education. See, if you educate people about things like cocaine and methamphetamine and heroin and opiates and the addictive nature, what you do to your health and your liver and all that, you'd see far fewer people using these drugs. So the answer is definitely education. Definitely education. And decriminalization, yeah. But it's a moneymaker for the criminal industrial complex. It's a relevance maker. Right? Moneymaker, relevance, security, job security. You get all these things are conflated. They go hand in hand. So, yeah, of course they don't want to get decriminalized. But, yeah, if you're driving, if you're impaired in any way, you're at work at some dangerous job, and your boss says, no, you're impaired. You're not going to work. Good. There should be rules about that. And the same with driving. I'm all for people not, being responsible. Again, it comes through the education mostly. Do you want to hurt somebody? You could hurt somebody out there driving on the road accidentally, stone cold sober. Okay, but if you're using something, remember, they're going to throw your behind in prison and you're going to be convicted. You're going to have big problems and live with the guilt of saying, hey, I was irresponsible. I hurt somebody or maimed somebody, killed somebody, and I got to live with that for the rest of my life. So, yeah, educate people. Show real-life stories of people that's happened to. Education is the answer, not criminalization of drugs. Amazon Prime is raising their rates. They're debasing the worth of your currency relative to having Amazon Prime, because Jeff Bezos, he wants another $100 billion, and he's trying to be the world's first trillionaire, apparently. So have fun with your Amazon Prime going up another $20. There might be peace in North and South Korea. That's good news. Trump, I imagine, is going to try to earn some brownie points for that. Why not? I guess that he feels he was a part of that whole deal. But we'll see if it has any staying power. We'll see what becomes of it, because all these things are in flux. It's all very dynamic at this point and very at its infancy stage. All right. I think I'm done with notes, talking points, current, recent event type stuff, news, and my opinion thereof. And now I'm on to some thoughts from the past couple of weeks. Just as your best friend can be identified by their willingness to offer you friendly, palatable, constructive criticism, so too, those whom offer constructive criticism to a given nation that deserves it is telltale of the best patriots. Yeah, so your best friend is not a yes man. Through empirical evidence, we can see that the national debt is not affecting those whose numbers, that means their money, continues to rise, or at least is maintained. Those whom are paying said debt are those whose numbers are dwindling. That is the poor, those who can least afford to pay that debt. That's exactly right. That's who is paying the national debt. Those that can least afford it. So you think I don't object to a national debt? Oh my God. Not one penny in debt should we have allowed. No, it should be a new constitutional amendment. If there's not a constitutional amendment against putting America in debt, we need one, okay? Quote, they, that is the uber elitist types, are manipulating us, rendering us in their perverted image and likeness. That is, mini elitist scumbags on the highway to hell. Contrary to popular belief, money was not invented in order to facilitate exchange. Rather, it was concocted as a means to facilitate the theft of the people of a nation, of the wealth. Theft of the wealth of the people of a nation. Thousands of years it's been going on because these evil people just cannot resist the power that comes with Satan's ambrosia, namely money in all its sundry incarnations and manifestations. For one to be truly normal, that is to say of sound mind, in a truly abnormal, wholly unsound world, indeed presents a complex, complicated dilemma, a serious challenge to all human beings. You're contending with various paradoxes, very, very glaring, acute paradoxes, like the one I mentioned about loving money and hating it at the same time, simultaneously. It seems very inconsistent. How can anybody say they hate money when we all know their heart, they love it? You could do it. You got to learn to do it, just like learning to love your enemy. You say it sounds stupid on its face, but then you find out when you delve into it that it's logical. It makes sense because it's God. We got to learn how God thinks and emulate and imitate that thinking, which is a lot different from us. Let every man be called a liar, but God can't lie. You know, we're born master of self-deceit, like the Bible says. It says that he says the heart is deceitfully wicked above all things. I mean, we got to understand that's in our own hearts. We have obstacles. We have a battle raging within our own members. Yeah, it shouldn't be like that, but we've got organic stuff with the fall of man and all this that we're contending with. It's hard just to live life as a human being without all these money masters of misery just completely like screwing with our heads and just messing things up for us in a very artificial, inorganic, unnatural manner. We don't need this crap. Hands down, the most mentally ill among us are those whom tout perfect mental health in a wholly mentally ill paradigm and unreality. Right. Those are your most mentally ill people. Those that think they're of perfectly sound mind and, you know, they don't want to talk about paradoxes, right? That hurts their head. So they choose willful ignorance. That's their God. That's their religion. Is stupidity, willful ignorance. Say, you know what? The smart guys capitulate. The ones with common sense, those that are pragmatic, they capitulate. They jump on the bandwagon. They play this rigged game. They just get on the right side of the equation. You know, they're on the side of the oppressors and not the oppressed because there's only two sides anymore. We all know that. Yeah, I know how it works. I know the score. The mindset of one of America's greatest icons, one Mr. Martin Luther King Jr., is a medium which can unify conservatives and liberals, capitalists and socialists, Democrats and Republicans, and by extensions, Americans at large, and then by further extension, the world. This is it, man. You latch on to the ideology of a guy like Martin Luther King Jr., and you will solve your problems. If you fail to do it, by default, you fail entirely, and you will never, never pull yourself out of your problems. That's it. You'll never extricate yourself. We've got to confront the issues. We need to be demanding. We're far too tolerant and accepting of being boiled like frogs. Okay, and that's all I'm pointing out, just how far we've fallen, how we're up to our necks in a pile of dog crap as a nation. And we've got to, you know, it's going to take a lot, man. It's going to be painful to turn this. People are going to think they're losing because their numbers go down. But remember, your numbers are going up in worth. So, a basic income could do that. Do you understand? You just by all those taxes you'd save. Your tax dollar would go through the roof in worth. Okay, if you just... God, I know what I'm talking about, folks. I'm a fiscally prudent, conservative guy in that respect. I know capitalism from anti-capitalism. That's all. I'm a logical, nuts and bolts, simple-minded kind of man. Unspoken evils, or things we all think but won't speak. Just a few, because there's just a boatload of these things that we all think, but none of us will speak. And that includes myself, because I haven't been able to awaken enough to see those things clearly enough to say, aha, here's another avenue, arena, where people all think the same thing about something, but nobody will say it, including myself, because I don't even see it yet myself. It's just, like I got blinders on, because these people are so effective at deceiving the masses. And I'm just another one of the masses in this pool of madness that I've been thrust into. So it's hard, but I'm just going to name a couple. Let's see. One of them is, don't have children if you're poor. So you should not have unprotected sex. That's by default if you're poor, because then you might impregnate a woman if you're a guy. Vice versa, if you're a woman, you might get pregnant. So if you're poor, you should not mate. You should not hook up. You should not have sex with a human being, because you can't afford to have sex. Okay, you just be a ward of the state. You'll be, like Ted Nugent might say, you'll be in the liability column if you're on welfare. You're not in the asset column. He won't talk about how that being in the asset column just gets harder and harder and harder, and how it gets easier and easier and easier to be in the liability column. He'll just put that out there. But isn't that something we all think about? We all think, no, you know what? I mean, you should not get married. You should not have sex. You should not have a boyfriend or a girlfriend if you're poor. That's because you can't afford children unless you plan on having an abortion. So we don't talk much about that, do we? Number 2, homeless people are lazy bums, alcoholics, drug addicts. Governments should ignore them. They made their beds, let them sleep in them, right? Isn't that what we all think? But nobody will say it. That you wish they would all just march off to some FEMA camp and get exterminated or something, just out of sight, out of mind with them. They're crapping on the doorsteps of businesses. I mean, what could get worse than that? 3, poor people in general are stupid, lazy, weak, pathetic, incompetent, non-compliant, and by extension, immoral. And we should have no regard for poor people. They're just a liability. Never wanting to discuss how they were made poor, the causes of poverty, the deliberate causes, intentional causes, inorganic and natural causes, invented causes. The fact that we can still think, still reason, and still imagine testifies to God's existential presence in our lives. God's existence in our lives is evidenced by your ability to think, to imagine. Just thank God. There's so much we all have to be grateful to God for every day that we should all think about. All those bad things that didn't happen to us. How many of us think about those things? Or the little blessings that you have in your life. Do you have food in your shelves, your refrigerator? What do you have? Think of all the creature comforts you have. Are you grateful? How grateful are you? Grateful enough to feel contrite, to feel a little guilt and have compunction about those that don't have that? That's why I say, man, I would so much. I can't enjoy what I have. And people would say, you have nothing, man. What are you talking about? I'd say it's all relative. Okay, I feel guilty about having what I have and enjoying what I have. I do. I mean that. Spending a nickel frivolously while people suffer unnecessarily. Unnecessarily. That's an absolute term. Unnecessary. So nobody can argue that it's necessary suffering. It isn't. People are suffering all over the place unnecessarily. And it's horrible, and I can't enjoy my stinking life. I want to be happy. And in order for me to be happy, I've got to look after other people. I've got to make sure that other people are happy. So in that sense, I wish that I had it the least best of anybody. That way, I couldn't go down any further. That's my logic. So try to understand where I'm coming from, because there's only up to go. If I knew my economic circumstances, my financial circumstances, my sense of financial freedom, my sense of financial security was that the bottom